You are helping to build the only wonder of the ancient world still standing, a 4,000-year-old masterpiece that will define human civilization for eternity. But your reward for building this immortality, a spine that looks like a question mark, a diet of literal dirt, and a slow, agonizing death from arsenic poisoning. Forget the Hollywood movies. This isn't about whip-scarred slaves. The historical truth is much darker. This is the story of how the pharaohs turned the human body into a disposable resource. Your day begins at 6 a.m. in a cramped, sweltering mud brick slum. By 7 a.m., you are at the limestone quarry, and the majesty of the project fades into a death sentence. You are dragging 2.5-ton blocks of stone across gravel on wooden sleds. In the mid-afternoon Egyptian sun, the heat routinely hits 38 degrees Celsius. Your skin is blistering. But you don't stop. If you stop, the project halts. By the time you reach your 30s, your body is a walking disaster zone. Skeletal remains from the worker graveyards reveal a horrific reality: crushed vertebrae, shattered joints, and severe osteoarthritis. Your bones were literally grinding against bones to lift a god-king to heaven. And if the crushing weight didn't break you, your tools did. Your copper chisels are alloyed with arsenic to keep them sharp. You are breathing in toxic metal dust all day long, causing chronic nausea, internal vomiting, and a slow, invisible poisoning from the inside out. Your paycheck, a handful of grain and a jug of sour beer. But the system was fragile. In 1158 BC, under Ramesses III, the rations simply stopped. The workers did something unthinkable. They staged the first recorded strike in human history. Imagine being the artisan responsible for the pharaoh's eternal soul, standing at the palace gates, begging for a sack of corn just to keep your children from starving to death. And God help you if you were sent to the Nubian gold mines. This was a fate universally described as worse than death. Workers were bound in heavy iron chains, forced to dig through the dark tunnels day and night without a second of rest. If you grew sick or lost a limb, there was no mercy. You worked until you dropped dead in the dirt. If you tried to run, the desert became your executioner. Even the safe farmers weren't free. When the pharaoh's tax scribe arrived, he brought guards armed with heavy wooden clubs. If your harvest was short, the punishment was furious. You would be beaten bloody, bound, and thrown down a dark well, while your wife and children were put in chains right in front of your eyes. Archaeologists have found worker skeletons showing successful amputations and cleanly healed fractures. But the state didn't heal you out of kindness. It was a maintenance strategy. A repaired worker was a worker who could go back to dragging stone. You were a gear in a massive administrative machine. And if the gear stripped its teeth, they just kept turning it until it finally snapped. The ultimate irony of the pyramids is that they were built to ensure eternal life. But for the millions of hands that moved the stones, the project was a systematic erasure of life, freedom, and health. You weren't building a monument. You were building your own graveyard, using the discarded stone of a king. If you want to see the absolute misery behind history's greatest achievements, hit subscribe, because the past is always darker than it looks in the brochures. See you in the next one.